Greetings all! Today, we'll be examining the relatively rare normal-type Pokemon Tauros, the Wild Bull Pokémon, and its relatively rare female counterpart, Miltank, the Milk Cow Pokémon. As a subspecies of Bull's Tauros, Tauros and Miltank might not look like they have much in common, but they are both fairly decent combatants that can be valuable assets to trainers and non-trainers alike. Tauros are quadrupedal mammals with black hooves and light brown hair that covers most of their body, save for a mane of dark brown hair that surrounds and hangs from their neck region. They have 3 tails that end in a tuft of dark gray hair, the 3 connected to each other at their origin point on the creature's posterior, and are primarily used to swat away insects and rile themselves up when attacking. They possess a pair of pointed horns that curve upwards, as well as a trio of growths on their forehead made from the same material as their horns, which are usually used to help buffer against direct impacts with objects when charging. Their small black eyes always give off an appearance of rage, and their short, dark brown nose is always constantly snorting as these beasts breathe, the heated air in their noses becoming particularly visible whenever they are angry. Miltank, on the other hand, are quadrupedal by nature, but can also become bipedal and walk on their hind legs with little trouble, which may explain why their black hooves form a pair of clearly visible toes that are slightly articulate, so they can actually pick up objects with their front hooves. They have a pink body base with black spots and pink skin that covers their neck and the backs of their heads, with a pair of small horns on the tops of their heads and a small circular marking on their foreheads that creates a loop pattern. Their large black ears are marked with beige flesh on the inside, and their small black nose complements their base color very well, with blue eyes that usually have a warm, inviting presence to them. Their lower torsos are marked by a large udder with beige flesh and 4 prominent pink teats from which their legendary milk is excreted. Although they are considered to be separate, unrelated Pokemon in terms of evolution, Tauros and Miltank are in fact part of the same Pokemon family. The many differences that exist between them are the result of extreme sexual dimorphism, with effectively everything about them being different aside from their shared normal type assignment. When it comes to Tauros, these are creatures that are to be approached under most conditions with extreme caution, as their temper has made them more than infamous and is their primary defining trait. In the past, these creatures were once very common in the plains of Japan, but were considered to be so dangerous that they were overhunted, to the point where they were on the verge of extinction and could only be found in the Kanto Safari Zone. However, protection laws and reintroduction of them into the wild years later allowed wild populations to form in the Johto and Sinnoh regions. Approaching them in the wild is rarely an easy task though, as the leaders of Tauros herds, which are often both the alpha and omega of the herd and are easily distinguished by having the longest, thickest, and most battle-scarred horns, displaying them as a sign of respect, are incredibly ornery and more likely to charge than to think reasonably if they or any other member of their herd is approached without a clear sign of permission. While they might not be incredibly powerful compared to some other Pokemon, these beasts more than make up for this with their incredibly violent personalities, with a legendary temper that forms the basis of fear that many have for them. Much like traditional bulls, these creatures can be readily angered by any motion that enters their sight, fearing that it might be a predator or some other force that wishes to do harm to them, though in their case, there is usually little warning given before they attack. Tauros primarily tackle these sorts of threats by charging at them with their horns. Although they are not incredibly long, as they are often used for locking horns with other Tauros and trying to roll them over to demonstrate strength and determine herd position without trying to actually harm said competitor, only leaving characteristic scratches on their surface, their horns are quite sharp and can be used to gore, tear the flesh of, and break the bones of their targets, especially when using their powerful thrash attack. However, they have a problem in that they are unable to easily turn once they have started to charge, unable to hold back their own momentum, so they employ a sneaky tactic in order to make their strikes more likely to hit. As these beasts prepare to charge, they will use their 3 tails to whip themselves harshly in order to rile themselves up, so when they do finally charge, they are putting their full power behind it and in turn are moving faster than they might otherwise move, allowing them to close the gap between them and their target more quickly and give them less time to get out of the way. While this is a behavior that can be curbed somewhat, these creatures will need to continuously charge things and will often not stop charging once they have started until they do manage to hit something, even if they are just trees or rocks, as their body naturally produces an excessive amount of adrenaline that they need to work out of their system constantly, or it will make them very ill. Interestingly though, it is noted that these creatures tend to be calmer and easier to work with in the Alola region, thought to be the result of the calmer and warmer climate of the region. This has made them so docile that they are often a prime choice for ride Pokemon in the region, and was in fact the first place in the world where this act was practiced before spreading to other parts of the globe, with them being great for removing rocky obstacles that may be in one's pathway. As a result of their incredibly violent and volatile natures, these creatures can possess Intimidate and Anger Point as base abilities, and combined with their brute strength, they can further possess Sheer Force as a hidden ability. In terms of their stats, Tauros are all about physical power and agility, and are able to hit decently hard for a Pokemon of their type, as while their base HP, special attack, and special defense stats are all below average for a fully evolved normal type Pokemon, their base attack, defense, and speed stats are above average, and they can more than make use of devastating attacks like Thrash, Double Edge, and Giga Impact to decimate unarmored opponents and prove their dominance to anyone foolish enough to anger them on the battlefield. On the other hand, their female counterpart, Miltank, are much more docile creatures and very easy to work with as long as one knows how to properly take care of them. As their species title suggests, these creatures are primarily used by most humans as milk cows, and there is a good reason for this, as Miltank milk is substantially different from the milk produced by other cows. For one thing, the sweet milk is incredibly rich in nutrients and has a very high calorie concentration, making it a premium choice item for making dairy products of all sorts, a very popular restorative drink for injured people in Pokemon, and a treat for young and old alike, sure to help keep and make the body strong for years to come. Moreover, it is very low in lactose and naturally contains antibiotics that help to kill off any bacteria that try and grow in it, so the milk often requires very little if any pasteurization before it is served, and can be made into a number of dairy products that even lactose-intolerant individuals can consume safely, with Miltank yogurt in particular being especially popular among people that normally can't stomach lactose products. Of course, trying to consume a large amount of Miltank milk products is probably a bad idea and best handled in moderation, as the richness of the milk can often make people sick in large quantities, and the high calorie content can often lead those that splurge on the goods too much to take on the rotund appearance of the Miltank they came from. Thankfully for most, these products, despite their high quality, are usually quite cheap, as a single Miltank can produce as much as 5 gallons of milk a day, and they usually give this milk freely as long as one knows how to properly and rhythmically pull up and down on their udders, though those that are too harsh on their udders will often be punished by a powerful stomp attack for their ineptitude. This delicious milk further grants these creatures access to the potent milk drink technique, a self-healing move that not only restores half of the user's maximum HP, but can also be used like the soft boil technique to heal other party members outside of battle at the expense of the user's own health, and it is a rare move only seen otherwise among the members of the Skiddo family. Interestingly, it is further noted that the nutrient content of the milk actually increases if it is produced while these creatures are in the presence of baby Pokemon. It seems that this is due to a very strong maternal instinct that is present in all Miltank, and it is triggered regardless of whether or not the infants they are near are their own or not. As a whole, Miltank are surprisingly easy to take care of, with the richness and tasty nature of their milk often being equated to the quality of the pasture that they graze in, and this helps them both as cattle and as combatants, as while they might not appear to be so, they are actually fairly tough beasts that perform well in battle with their own unique mixture of attacks and techniques. As a result of their larger bodies and rambunctious fighting spirit, something they partially share with Tauros, they can possess thick fat and scrappy as base abilities, and in cases where their herbivorous nature amplifies their ability to absorb and process plant-based powers and energies, they can further possess Sap Sipper as a hidden ability. In terms of their stats, These creatures are not as offensively powerful as Tauros, but they are built to be sturdier and can take a considerable degree of punishment while moving around at a surprisingly fast pace. As such, while their base attack, special attack, and special defense stats are below average for fully evolved normal type Pokemon, their base HP, defense, and speed stats are above average, and they make good use of their rotund appearance to deliver powerful blows with attacks like Rollout and Body Slam, ultimately making themselves fairly powerful creatures that are not worth trifling with unless you have serious offenses to punch through their powerful defenses and high stamina with, especially considering they have the highest base defense stat out of all non-legendary normal type Pokemon. The relationship that exists between Tauros and Miltank has always been a fairly odd one, as much like the members of the Nidoran families, the anatomical and combat attributes of these creatures are so different that they are indeed considered to be completely separate Pokemon, even though they belong to the same subspecies, with Tauros being male only and Miltank female only. However, unlike the former example, these creatures can breed with each other at any point in their life cycle, though it has proven very difficult for humans to force those that are in captivity to mate with one another. In the wild, these creatures will only come together to mate once a year for about a week, and once their time is done, the creatures go their separate ways once more. Once the offspring are born, one of two things will happen. If the offspring is a Miltank, the infant will be allowed to stay with the Miltank herd its mother originated from. If the offspring is a Tauros, however, it will be ejected from the herd almost immediately and will be forced to wander on its own until it finds a Tauros herd to join and live with for the rest of its life. This is done not out of cruelty, but for the sake of the herd, as these beasts are ornery and volatile from birth, and in turn are best suited to be with their own kind, where they can learn their place more readily and interact with individuals more normal compared to their opposite gender counterpart. Despite this though, it is noted that these creatures can still commonly be found in similar areas in the wild, as while they might remain in separate herds, they are usually close to one another, as wild Miltank will often rely on the furious temper of Tauros to scare away serious threats if their defenses are not enough to fully protect them against attack. While they might be worlds apart in nearly every single aspect of their existence, Tauros and Miltank are powerful bovines that can give opponents a hard time in a fight in their own special ways. Whether you choose to go with a raging bull or a sturdy cow as a partner is up to you, but you honestly can't go wrong no matter what choice you make. If you really can't make a choice though, keep in mind that one is definitely going to be more of a hassle than the other. You might be able to handle the occasional stomp or body slam from your Miltank if you accidentally get a bit carried away with interacting with it, but if you try any funny business with their male counterpart, you'll quite likely and literally get the horns and end up in a terrible state, if you even live to tell the tale at all. Thank you all for watching this video. It is always an honor to be able to speak with you all on the subject of Pokemon in a way that brings me great joy and happiness in my work. If you would like to keep tabs on past and future work, click that subscribe button, check out my work on DeviantArt, and don't be shy about following me on Twitter, where you can find pertinent announcements on upcoming work before it is officially posted. Links to both can be found in the video description. If you would like to support my work and help Miguel and I continue to produce more content for you and improve upon our presentation, please visit us at my Patreon page, which you can also find a link to in the video description. With that, I thank you for watching and I wish you well.